My name is Stephanie Hinz. I serve on the elder board at Crossroads, and I'm doing the 21 days of prayer and fasting verse of the day. It's day 7, and the verse is Psalm 27:14, which reads, "Wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord." This sounds very positive, but I don't know about you. When I'm in a season of wait, I don't always feel very positive. I'm not actually very good at waiting, especially waiting patiently. I think that probably all of us are in some type of wait in our lives at any point. We might be waiting on a small answer or direction in our lives to be clear, or we might be waiting on something really big. And that can be hard. That can be difficult. It can be easy to become discouraged, which is the opposite of being brave and courageous. I think we can become discouraged when we look at our circumstances, we see them not changing, and we can become really discouraged. I think we can become discouraged if we look at the world and we hope that the world has an answer for us, that there's some encouragement we can find as we look around, or we doom scroll. We can become discouraged. We can become discouraged when our eyes are on ourselves. And we think, well, how can I figure this out? Like, how can I dot all my I's, cross all my T's, get all my ducks in a row to make this better, this situation better? But we have limits. And when we are trusting in ourselves, we can become discouraged. The only way to truly remain encouraged is to have our eyes on God. And that's what David was doing. And David reminded himself, even in the beginning of Psalm 27, of God's character. He said, "God, the Lord is my light and my salvation. When I call in my distress, he answers me." David knew God to be faithful. He knew God to be a deliverer. He knew God to be someone who shows up. And even in difficult circumstances that David might have found himself in, he still knew he could trust in God because God was faithful and God was good and God showed mercy. And so I think the same is true in our lives, even times that might be extremely difficult. Because just because we're waiting on something doesn't mean that the answer we get is always wonderful. It doesn't mean that our circumstances are always going to be wonderful or life is always going to be wonderful. We're not promised that. The blessing is in waiting on God, because when our eyes are on him, we can see all the good that he is still able to do in the midst of tough times, in the midst of difficulty, in the midst of sickness, pain, hiding from oppressors, whatever it might be. He is a faithful God. He's a good God. And we need to remind ourselves, just as David did, to put our faith and our hope in him. Remind ourselves also of how he's come through in the past. One thing that I like to do is look back in journals. Now, I don't always journal diligently and regularly, but I have journaled in my life at different times. And looking back and reading some of those entries, it takes me right back to seasons that might have been really hard, and especially seasons where I had to wait. And I can be right back in those raw emotions, reading through them. But what is really beautiful is taking those moments and seeing how God showed up, how he answered those prayers. Was it the way that I always wanted? Not always. Was it the timing that I thought was best? Most of the time, not. But I've seen him be faithful in so many ways, in so many times, and even in extremely hard times. I have seen him be faithful. And so I hope that you can remind yourself of who God is. And if you don't know him, I hope that you take some time to ask questions and seek him for yourself. Ask him to show you his character. And I hope if you do know him, you can remind yourself in these times of wait to remind yourself of how he showed up in the past. He is faithful. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He doesn't change. And so if he showed up before, he's going to show up again. I hope this encourages you.